All right, what a newsful day. Jail doctors spent the second night behind bars tonight, and they're scheduled for a court appearance tomorrow. Meanwhile, in 48 hours, all hospitals in the country will be on shutdown. That is in solidarity with the jail doctors. While all this is going on, the registration exercise that was to end today has been somewhat extended by the High Court for 2 more days. We'll have the mover of that case, if we can, Okiom Tata himself, later in the program. Lots to get over, so little time. Let's get started. This is News Sources, the highlights tonight.
I conveyed my deep regret for that, what has happened, but we also agree that we need to see those leaders.
And this one's here now, we are involving each and every hospital which is catering for our patients to actually lower down their tools.
They have no license to gather, and they should leave this compound completely. They have no permission from the authority. They should leave immediately.
Good evening, I'm James Smart. Let's start where we should, and that's the doctor strike. And the man at the center of it all, the Health Secretary Cleopa Maelu, today was at pains to explain to the Senate why things are falling apart. Maelu says the government still wishes to negotiate with the striking doctors, and that is personally taking up advice from the Attorney General on how the doctors who are jailed can be freed so as to allow for negotiations to resume. The Senate has given Maelu up to tomorrow, 10 a.m., to come back with an update.
We shall do whatever is possible to ensure that we get back to the table with those leadership of the union. And this morning I talked to the chair of the negotiating committee of doctors in an effort to find out what is it we need to do moving forward. I conveyed my deep regret for that, what has happened, but we also agreed that we need to see those leaders out to be able to continue with the dialogue.
All right, News Sources starts right from there. Joining us, Wahome Duku, Advocate Abdullah Boru, Danish Odongo, and Dr. Masikori. Ladies, gentlemen, who saw this coming? That would finally, we've been teetering with it, that doctors are getting jailed, not jailed, something comes up. Here we are, jailed. Dr.
Well, I think we all saw it coming because it's been since the 12th of January. I think the Lady Justice tied herself by pronouncing a jail term, a suspended jail term, and not giving an option for a fine or for a bail. And so we find ourselves in a situation where we should have probably considered the spirit of the law instead of the letter of the law, because has it made it any better to jail the doctors than have them free and resolve the current issue? Because it's the 72nd day, and obviously with the doctors in jail, and the doctors are being very categorical that without their 7 top leadership, there are no negotiations. So have we made any progress?
Have we made any progress? The government knew this.
Yes.
They knew that all along that if doctors get jailed, then the talks somehow collapse. But they still played along and allowed it. Why?
For me, I really would not focus on the government right now. I think we've been shown the extent to which the inconsistency with which the law is applied in this country. While some people get the very same jail term for contempt of court, but others then are jailed immediately, especially in a scenario where patients are dying and poor people are in pain. I think it was a very insensitive thing to do. We respect the judgment. Of course, we do not want to cast aspersions and right now try to bring doubt to the ruling that was made. But I think, in my opinion, as a layman, I think it was a bit insensitive and they should have just gone for the negotiations without jailing the doctors.
Mm-hmm. But are we looking at this wrongly to say that this is a high-power stakes game and the government has always had ways on how to deal with industrial action? We saw it with the teachers. They've always done it with any other someone who's wanted to industrial action. The government has always had a way of how to get their way through the courts, obviously.
Yeah, I think I probably agree with my colleague here. I think the government hasn't gone about it in a very decent way. When you say the only way to resolve this is by jailing the doctors, of course the government will come out and say, no, it's not us, it's the county government where the health function has been devolved. Oh no, it's not us, it's the court. But I think mine is just to focus back this as a right to health that the government is failing to provide. And secondly, I think I also would want to be very careful not to focus so much on the pay aspect of CDA, which really isn't. And if you look at the CDA in totality, the pay is just but a very small part of it.
It's one item.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And every time you hear the government pronounce itself on this, they say they don't have money. How about the other things? Why don't they sort other things as we figure out the money? So I think there is a fair degree of lack of good faith from the government in resolving this. And I think that is number one. Number two, it's also just bringing back the spotlight to the people who are actually suffering now because of the government's failure. And the middle class in this country also, it's about time we need to begin waking up. We might have an insurance card and we'll be able to access healthcare, but for how long? And the media also, I think, needs to take few blames here. I mean, this is 72 days of strike, and these issues...
There's no laser focus,
on
say,
this
journalism on this particular
I
issue.
wish you had looked at the newspaper headlines for the last 2-3 days. You know, NASA this, Jubilee this, and we have in a country
everything
where 72, for the last 72 days, people cannot access healthcare.
Oh, I'm all for respecting court rulings and, you know, orders of the court, but here is it. We're talking about something that is monumental, as we talk, 72 days of, you know, without healthcare. Doctors have been agitating for just more than a pay. And the court here is just talking about just respect our accountable court, not even dealing with the substantive issue, the substantive question.
Yeah, sure. I also thought the same. You know, we are in agreement that once you're in contempt of court, some form of action must be taken. That is agreed. And that is not even the contention, and the fact that if you are a judge sitting in such a matter where you jail 7 doctors, you have 6,000 out there. Now, the 6,000 become even more hardened. You have to ask yourself, how have I resolved that? Of course, there is what you'd call the court wanted to assert its position, but you have a whole lot of people out there. You have a whole country suffering because of suspended services. Those are the kind of questions that you have to ask yourself before you declare some of those, or issue some of those decrees. And so far, we don't see a solution to this. The doctors may be in for a month. They'll come out.
And
now,
we're still there.
You must know that once they are out, even if they are to spend a month in jail, once they are out, the punishment is spent.
Yes,
if they are not in any more contempt.
Yeah.
If you want contempt, you have to start all
Right.
over again, some other proceedings.
Okay.
So at the end of it, we don't have a solution to this.
All right, let's stay with it. And it is day 72 of the doctor strike and day 2 in jail for the KMPDU officials who are behind bars for contempt of court. The doctors spent the day today holding peaceful protests around the country with others visiting with the jailed colleagues. Now, this even as numerous bodies and entities express utter shock in the jailing of the country's doctors. So how will this end?
We were supposed to finalize the CBA by the end of this week, but it is the negligence part which has been played by the government itself which has led to our colleagues being taken to jail.
Okay, so it's quite clear that this situation has not moved. We are still where we were, and we sort of have just dug ourselves possibly just deeper into this hole. But still, some say the government possibly just wanted it to go that route.
Well, whether the government wanted it to go that route or if they did anything to mitigate that, we are here. How do we get out of it? Do we make it worse or do we get ourselves out of it? Before the doctors were jailed yesterday on Monday, they spent the better part of Sunday until Monday at 1 a.m. combing through the CBA, agreeing onto some parts, and they said they had done up to 90% of the document finished. And so when you come on Monday morning and you're taken to jail by the same people you were sitting with at the table, then it casts doubt as to who really is, who has goodwill or is negotiating in good faith. And so for us to say we are shocked, I think We saw it coming because the government, by all means, wants these people to go back to work, wants the doctors to go back to work without addressing the issue. As I said, the government is coming out and saying, we've given them money, a 40% pay rise. Why are they not talking about the other aspects of the CBA, which talks about annual staffing, which talks about having better working conditions for the doctors? Because this translates directly to improved medical services to the common man. Why are they not addressing that? And they come hammering us with the same issue of, we have given them a 40% pay rise. Today I was shocked by one of the politicians saying that the work of a doctor is sit behind the desk and monitor patients. And with that kind of thinking or that kind of information from a politician, and they're the same people you're supposed to discuss with at the table, then how do you move? So I don't think we're really shocked that we are here where we are.
But how do we get out of it?
I think it's extremely unfortunate that we are where we are, because a government that took over power and vowed to protect life would not sit pretty and move across the country mobilizing for votes, while the grave issue of doctors, is pending over their backs.
On their defense, they're saying we are working. I mean, we give the doctors, like one says, 40%, and that is what all that the government can talk about. So if the defense, they say they've done something.
If you look at the CBA, it's not only about the pay rise. We're talking about facilities. We're talking about basic things like cotton wool, like gloves. Some doctors have had to take antiretroviral therapy because they've had to handle blood of people who are infected because there are no gloves. Then there's no need of us to employ more doctors and give them more salaries if they're going to go back to the same conditions that are terrible, that are making our people to die. I think the basic issue we need to ask ourselves is this, that do we have a government that cares about our health and about who we are as a people? Because if that is the issue, then we should have dropped everything and made it as a national priority to resolve the health stalemate. But remember that in 2013, during their launch of the Manifesto of the Jubilee, they made a promise that their health approach would be in terms of private and public partnership kind of approach. And this is why maybe we should be concerned that maybe is our public health care being handed over to private people who then can make money out of our misery. That should be the question.
Are we reading also the same then?
The matter is coming back tomorrow to the Court of Appeal, where we may find a way to get the officials out of jail, even if it is for a moment. And I think that's the first step. I would really think that is a very first step to take.
Does it sort the problem, though?
That's what I'm saying. That once now, you see, you can't sort out a problem when you have leaders in jail and the masses that they lead are out there. If you listen to the country, you would think it's all the doctors who are in jail. In fact, people are tending to think that it's every doctor in this country who is in jail.
There's one who's here, so thankfully that's not
when you're in jail, the officials jail get the 7 out of jail. Yeah. Okay? They have learned their lesson. Let's agree on that if they are incompetent, let them sit back. Yesterday, I told you, was not in court. And this is a man who was charged with the responsibility of trying to negotiate with these guys. And he was not there. Let's get back to the tables and decide what do we want. How far do you want to go?
Here's the problem. We're imagining that up to this moment, there was goodwill, I would say, for argument purposes from both sides, that the government is actually there with its, wallet and saying, I'm just need to make sure that the treasury has this money and whatnot. That's the assumption. 72 days later, so we can't assume that the fact that tomorrow either the doctors come out, then we have a government that really wants these things to end. But hang on to this thought. I want to get your thoughts. But let me move on to when I'm asking people, if you think the government is interested in honoring the collective bargaining agreement. Do you think the government is interested in honoring the collective bargaining agreement with doctors? Tweet me at @JamesSmart, #NewsSources. I'll be happy to hear your thoughts. But the doctors' plan yesterday was to show moral, I beg your pardon, and the doctors' plan was to show moral support with jailed colleagues yesterday night. However, the government had other plans. A battalion of GSU officers and their anti-riot equipment was made available at the prisons to stop the doctors and other Kenyans from holding a night of vigil. Now, the police, who are deployed at the different stations, ordered the gatherers to disperse. Take a listen.
They have no license to gather, and they should leave this compound completely. They have no permission from the authority. They should leave immediately.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And usually we know that we have the anti-riot police, but we can see now you are surrounded by GSU. Why the paramilitary, sir?
And they have guns. You want to kill people. You want to kill people.
But That's the thing, because the assumption, and I'm picking up from where Wahome had stopped, that, after tomorrow it will all be nice, people will be holding hands, singing Kumbaya, the doctors and the government get into a room and all be sorted. But that's the situation yesterday night. It doesn't look like it. And
that is my point, exactly. That these negotiations were not done in good faith. If the negotiations were done in good faith, when they want to absolve themselves of the responsibility around this issue, they say that it's the judiciary that has decided. This is not the judiciary arm of the government. So why doctors meeting and just holding a vigil as a solidarity? Why is that such a big problem? And I also would take the issue with the police officer who says that, they do not have a permission. I mean, things changed a long time ago. You don't need a permission. All you need, there are two regimes when it comes to, assemblies. One is the authorization. You actually need an authority to give you the permission to do it. And the second is notification. Here, you just need to notify them and say, hey, look, around this time and this time, we want to have an event here. These are the roads that people are taking, blah, 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 blah. And you're done. And so if really they are determined and this is my problem, all these efforts are turning into fairly being counterproductive. If you really would want to negotiate with the doctors, you don't jail their union leaders. If you really are interested in showing, that you care about this issue needs to be resolved, you cannot bring GSU. GSU has got other important things to do. These are doctors and they are saying, hey, we just want to sit here and say, and show solidarity. And this is the problem, again, good faith.
And I really wanted to respond to Wahome saying that the doctors have learned their lessons, the doctors officials have learned their lessons. I don't believe in that. I think there are people who need to actually learn their lessons in this country. We've got drug barons who are actually infecting our children. We've got thieves who have looted this country dry. The jail spaces that the doctors are currently occupying does not belong to them. It belongs to thieves and people who loot this country dry and people who have actually done more terrible injustice to this country. But I want to talk about this. Countries like Cuba, a third world country like Kenya, their life expectancies are 78 because from 1959 they ensured that they were going to put the public healthcare system in front of any other thing. Right now, they're actually exporting up to 20,000 doctors abroad to go and deal with the emergencies. The Jubilee government promised that they would actually make Kenya a health destination, tourism destination. They said that no Kenyan would actually go out to seek medical health in India. But right now, it looks like we're turning and reneging on the promise that we made to Kenyans, and we're actually comfortable because, come August, Kenyans would vote along tribal lines, and therefore this matter does not really matter at all. We don't care about it. And it's sad.
Yes, that's right.
What started as a strike has now metamorphosed into something else because of the government action. Look at those pictures from yesterday night. The doctors were holding a peaceful vigil on their own in a private property. Then when the police come, it's GSU and military. You could even see when they asked the doctors to leave, they left. No one threw any stone, no one was causing any chaos. They actually just left peacefully. This tells you that this is a group of people who are there for another purpose that is not suspect. But when you see these pictures by the government, then it makes us ask ourselves questions about what has been happening at the negotiation table that is not out in the public. Remember, the doctors have been saying that we want these negotiations to be in the full glare of the media. Why is it then? Because now when we see such kind of happenings, then we doubt many things that are happening.
I'm normally very cautious about talking about security at night. See, if you have, if police decide,
would you rather have this program during the day?
No, if the police, if the police decide that they want to do something at night for security purposes, I'm not very quick to condemn that. However, I must say that the issue of doctors, I'll pick what he's saying and say until they leave jail, okay? Whether they have learned the lesson, then I may even change that and say maybe they have not. But this solution can only be found if these guys are released, then negotiations pick from there. Whether they have been there for 72 days, 100 more, fair enough, but right, until they're out.
Let me chip in.
Yes.
2 seconds. I think with all due respect to Ndugu Wahome, the idea that whenever we invoke national security and it comes from the police, we should just bow down and that is it, I think it's a dangerous direction. We should be very careful. These guys have said all manner of things around national security, and once we've gone back, we found out that some of those things are problematic. I am not trained in security, but I've lived on this world long enough to realize that when national security is invoked, the chances are that a lot of the time...
It's like a joker card, once it's invoked, then everyone just disappears. But hang on to that thought. Meanwhile, with things coming to a head, there is seemingly an information warfare currently going on. Soon after the doctors were jailed, government minders were quick to make claims that the doctors were in fact in jail because of the Council of Governors and not the national government. Well, be as it may, private hospitals will be joining the strike for at least 48 hours in support of the jailed doctors. So, my director reminds me that we have need to listen into a bite. Let's listen.
We have decided, both as government plus the private practitioners, and these ones here now we are involving each and every hospital which is catering for our patients, to actually lower down their tools. I think the best thing I can tell you is, since the government thinks that going for registration is more important, I have asked also my doctors to take time out and go and register themselves and offer no further treatment.
Yes.
Well, I think it was Martin Luther who says sometimes you have a moral responsibility to stand against injustice. And what the doctors are doing, I think, is just a show that, our colleagues have been jailed. We think it's unjust because what they are standing for is something that actually benefits you and I. So I think this is just a reaction to what the rest of our colleagues are going through. And so when the private hospitals close as of today midnight for 48 hours, then you and I, Smart, and the rest of the panel here have nowhere to seek. Yes, have nowhere to seek services. You'll go to Mata, you'll not find any doctor. So I think, as he has always been saying, Boro, that the middle class in this country needs to wake up, and maybe this will be their wake-up call, because the middle of the night when you have a headache, you'll have no one to treat you. That's when now you'll know. As the
rest of Kenyans have been experiencing for 72 days.
Exactly.
There's nothing special about being middle class.
Yes. And I think that's they should have done this a long time ago. I think the lack of unity within the medical fraternity has also costed them a bit. Because, there are very few, around 5,000 doctors who are actually on strike, around 6,000.
Let me just correct that. The strike notice was issued to the government.
Yes.
The private facilities have a different arrangement with the doctors' union. So they wouldn't have locked down the private facilities without going through the proper procedure. For the national government, they issued a 21-day strike notice that will go on strike because of all these issues. They'll need to issue the same with the private facilities. But now what we see here was a directive by the Kenya Medical Association to all its members, which is all its doctors, to withdraw services. That's a different body and that's a different discussion.
And a different arrangement.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's... There are also good things that have come out of this. Really, one of the things that gladden me is to see young doctors, because very often we are being told, oh no, the youth are not taking a lead in some of these things. That, I think, is one of the things that really needs to be reported. Also, it's what unions can do. I mean, in this country, we can always divorce ourselves from, oh, unions, they don't speak the language that, speaks to us, the middle class. Yeah. Minus the union, you can imagine the amount of power that this state would have brought to bear on the doctors. I'm not saying they haven't. Minus the union, they wouldn't have been able to do that. I think for me, those are two things that we shouldn't look. Thirdly, it's how the doctors have been able to use the social media. Like, they've made the mainstream media really irrelevant. I mean, like the kind of snappy, Lipatenda hashtag. I mean, like, that was really amazing. Thank God the timing was really perfect. Immediately after the 5,000, billion scandal broke in the ministry, the strike on notice was also given. I think it's a lesson for a lot of other people who want to do this kind of stuff, that really probably mainstream media do not call the shots. Maybe we can go the other way around.
Yes.
I fully support. I support doctors in the private sector standing with their colleagues in the public sector. That I fully support. Those are the links that normally miss in any industrial action, and this is very good. So let's wait and see. Let's hope this works. But as you can see, the whole of this is attached to the fact that if you look at the government, you see exploitation of, you see massive abuse of resources, public resources. And that is where this is pegged on, that you cannot continue paying some people for doing nothing, yet the group that really serves this country and takes care of the health of this country is just neglected. You cannot have that kind of a country. So this is a very good lesson, and I really support when the private doctors come in and now back.
So that the whole country is without healthcare.
Exactly, so that the middle class can learn that
tweeting is not everything.
Right.
Well, I want to take a short break, but asked you on Twitter, on your board right now, on your screen, if you think the government is really interested in honoring the CBA, that's the collective bargaining agreement with the doctors. You can always tweet me at JamesSmart, hashtag news sources, or tweet us at KTN News. I'll be happy to hear your thoughts and opinions and give you that poll results at the end of this